Hi, I'm Jared from KTWU. Coming up, a segment from Sunflower Journeys. If you enjoy it, please consider visiting ktwu.org to make a contribution.
In the year 2000, Sunflower Journeys joined a celebration of Earth Day at Sunset Zoo in Manhattan. The first Earth Day was held in 1970, the same year that a new national magazine dedicated to sustainable lifestyles was launched. That magazine has since moved its offices to Kansas, as we see in our next story.
I started out as a reporter and a photographer at little papers, and then I was an editor, and then I was a publisher of community newspapers. I think that the 10 years we've been in Kansas is our longest continuous stay in one place.
Like a lot of Americans, Bryan Welch has moved around and lived in a lot of different places, from Taos, New Mexico and Denver, Colorado, to Seattle and Boston. He moved to Kansas in 1996, where he lives on a small farm near Lawrence. For the past decade, he's been employed by Ogden Publications in Topeka, where he's the publisher and editorial director.
The owners of the business and I were in business together before. I ran a newspaper for them. But we'd gotten together because they knew I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial, and they were interested in diversifying. They owned a bunch of newspapers, and they were interested in diversifying what they did. And so they found grit and cappers here in Topeka and asked me if I thought that might be a foundation for diversifying and doing something entrepreneurial and interesting in a publishing way. And I thought so, and so moved here and started running Grit and Cappers, and then started trying to come up with ideas for ways of building on that foundation. The first thing we did was start Farm Collector, which was real successful right away and has been a great part of the business ever since.
The business now includes a number of different periodicals. In addition to Cappers, Grit, and Farm Collector, it publishes magazines such as Steam Traction, Motorcycle Classics, and the Herb Companion. In the year 2000, it acquired Mother Earth News, an iconic national publication that first appeared in January of 1970.
Certainly there were lots of pragmatic reasons that Mother Earth News needed to exist in the world in 1970. We were doing a lot of damage, and it wasn't going to be good enough to appeal to people's logic. We needed to touch people on an emotional level, give them a sense of their personal responsibility for what was happening to the planet. It was more radical, more revolutionary, more provocative than we are today. At the time, it was written for a movement.
Mother Earth News became one of the more visible forums for the environmental movement in America, although the basic principles and ethics of that movement have now become more commonplace. It seems many people still avoid referring to themselves as an environmentalist.
You'd be surprised, possibly, I was surprised initially, by the number of people that I meet in the world who say, now I'm not an environmentalist, but I love Mother Earth News. You know, and we who are involved with the magazine think to ourselves, how could you love Mother Earth News and not be an environmentalist? But I think what they're saying is, I don't want to be a member of that tribe, of that social group that I perceive as being somehow a negative force, but I want to live a responsible life. I want to live a conscientious life. And I love raising my own food, and I love living the values that are portrayed in the magazine.
Maintaining a good connection with nature by living close to the land and interacting with the animals they raise helps many of those who work for Mother Earth News keep in touch with the primary mission of their publication.
Most of the magazines on the newsstand today have a fairly simple editorial mission. We're about, you'd be about remodeling houses, or Western Horseman is about, owning horses and riding on Western saddles. And so most magazines have a fairly tight focus. Mother Earth News continues to be about a lifestyle, and that lifestyle is comprised of lots of little individual activities, and we try to speak to each of those individual activities. It means that we have to actually be in touch with the value system that is the backdrop for Mother Earth News identity. We're really responsible for 1.5 million relationships with people who read Mother Earth News, and they're relationships like our personal relationships that are built on a set of shared values.
The success enjoyed with publications like Mother Earth News has enabled the company to expand. In June of 2006, Ogden Publications announced the acquisition of another popular national magazine called Utne.
What this group of magazines has in common, I refer to as a commitment to a conscientious lifestyle. The Utne readers pursue that conscientious lifestyle in a very cerebral way. It's a highly intellectual magazine that we put together based on gleanings from 1,500 small magazines, alternative newspapers, websites, blogs, things like that, and put together a magazine every other month that picks out some of the best of what's being talked about out there, bold new ideas, alternative solutions, and on a variety of topics. So in the sense that it's dedicated to a sense of conscientiousness, it is I think a good member, an appropriate addition to our business.
While magazines such as Utne and Mother Earth News provide practical and thought-provoking articles about how to live a more environmentally conscious and socially responsible life, Bryan Welch notes that it's easy to become discouraged about the way things are going in the world today.
I frequently hear from people who are feeling a sense of despair. Sometimes people within my organization who work on these concepts and on these missions every day come to a juncture where they just seem to be losing hope, temporarily, of course. I'd like people to think of it in terms of, I think the Buddhist sage talked about chopping wood and carrying water, and doing both of those things very mindfully and with a sense of their significance. Every little thing we do makes some degree of difference. At the end of the day, it's probably arrogant of us to think that we're going to make the ultimate difference one way or the other. Earth's a big, powerful natural machine. I don't know that we yet have control over that machine. I think it still holds most of the cards. And so I think it's more fulfilling to live conscientiously. I think we do make a difference with all those little decisions. But probably we shouldn't take ourselves or our mission so seriously that it drives us to despair, thinking that we're not going to save it or we're not going to achieve the ultimate idealistic end. We need to enjoy every little thing we can do.
Glad you could stop by to see a clip from Sunflower Journeys. There are more great local stories out there waiting to be discovered, but it takes help from viewers like you and me to make it happen. Visit KTWU.org right now to make a pledge.